With the radio out of the dash, I would like to start on the driver door. It's a push clip in the top corner. Push a little bit. Kind of like pull it out.
That jumped out at you, man.
Yeah.
It was like it was alive.
My goodness, right here. So put it in there. Grab your plastic tool. This one sometimes is 3 clips. Sometimes they stay in place. See, like this one. For that, I like to use stick tool angle. You kind of like push it from one corner. And there we go. We put it back so we don't lose them. The next one, we grab our pry tool, push it out. It's a regular Phillips screw. Right here on the handle, it's a carpet cover. Remove it. It's another Phillips screw. And then from there, some people, they just pop it out. I like to remove my switches because it's easy for me. The reason why I like to do it because this is kind of hard sometimes to remove it. Like if you see, you push it, but
it looked pretty easy, man.
Yeah. From there, you grab your pry tool and start from the bottom, any corner, whatever you like. And look at that. Now we're here.
Oh wow! Started at the bottom. Now we're here.
Remove your lock and your door handle. The white always goes in the top. Sometimes when you remove it, you don't pay attention, and when you put it back, it's like, oops. Sometimes clips stay in place. Grab our pry tool. As soon as we have it, we put it back in the door panel. Next step, push your speaker clip, remove it. You can use your Phillips screws. Sometimes it wobbles, so I like to switch it for a 10mm. And that's it. As we're here, let's take the speaker out of the dash. You can grab your flat pry tool. You can start in the corner, as you see. But because we're going to do a radio and we're gonna run our microphone, we're going to remove the A-pillar. Same thing. Grab your pry tool, 2 10mm. You grab it. There you go. Now grab your pry tool again. You got 2 10mm. Grab your ratchet. I always like to put my thumb on my finger on top of it so you don't scratch the windshield. Now you can join Dean on the bench so you can see what is going to replace these bad boys right here.
These are the KFC XP6902Cs. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you hear us talking about these things all the time. Yes, they are that good, and yes, we do love them. And for those of you that haven't been watching the channel all that much, let's flip this over to the back and we'll show you one of the cool features about these speakers. Is that they come with brackets that allow them to easily go into Toyotas, Chevys, Dodges, and basically anything that has a 6x9 in it. Because it's, well, now we can take a look at the speaker. Owner's manuals, instructions, all that fun stuff is all right here on top. Fast string style foam. This is designed to go onto the front of the speaker so that when you put the door panel back on, it couples with the door panel and seals up the speaker against it so you don't lose any of that energy coming off of the 6x9. These are the 2 magical brackets. As you can see, it has all these lines and letters, and on the back side it shows you what to break off in order to match it up with your factory speaker. Open that up, gets down into this whole treasure trove of stuff. For some of the installations, you're just gonna need just like a regular spacer to move the speaker out. Here is the 6x9. It is shallow mount, but that does not diminish its bass output. It has a really good mid-bass output. On the back, it has the passive crossover if you're going to be running this passively. If you're going to be hooking an amplifier up to it, let's say has a bandpass crossover, which we're gonna be doing in this car, you have bypass, which means it'll bypass this crossover that's on here. This also works if you're putting it in that Dodge that has the premium audio system that the system is already actively crossed over. You would connect this in bypass mode. The dash speaker that we're going to put it in is this little guy right here, little 2.5 inch. The crossover for it is this guy right here that easily clips onto the speaker wire and hooks up. And then there's just a ton of foam in this. For the back of the speakers, for the front of the speakers, anywhere you're going to be putting it, for the back of the plastic and the the front of the plastic, little pieces of foam for going around the 2.5. There's speaker wire connectors that doesn't have a factory plug on it, but you can splice in, and then it has the ends on it to hook up the 6x9s in the doors. Comes with several different styles of screws. Everything is in this kit. Let's take a look at the little guys first. One of the nice things about this little guy is it has this pigtail here, and I love little pigtails like this, especially on a dash speaker, because as you saw us trying to get it out, it's very tight up there, and trying to strip wires and do all that. If there is a connector, I've learned to love these going up into the dash. On this, it's easy enough. We can remove this. It's marked on the speaker. Red is positive, black is negative, so we don't have to polarity check it or anything like that. We can easily hook it up to our aftermarket. And when you sit the two on top of one another, the screw holes do line up. This is designed to drop right into place. And once we connect our wiring on here, we'll probably solder it. We'll be all set and ready to go. As far as construction differences, this one is made out of steel. This one is made out of composite. Magnet wise, our new one is clearly bigger. Depth-wise, which is important, and this is something that Ken would spend a lot of time on trying to get right, is that they're very similar in depth. And the reason for that is a lot of the times the air conditioning ductwork is what sits right underneath there. And if you have something that's super deep, well, it's not gonna sit flat. Most 2.5s, for some reason, they put this on there. It's a UV protectant. I'm sure they've done the same thing on this. So if you're looking through that top grill, it'll have a similar look and feel to it. As far as our factory speaker, that's that UV I was talking about. You can actually see the factory grill ghosted into the speaker. That's pretty crazy, right? Back side of it, little tiny neo magnet. These things get hot, so if you're doing one of these right after it's been blaring, be careful on this. We have seen where this has actually gotten so hot it's fallen off of this mount. This is some kind of composite. There's foam all the way around it. This foam here on the front is what this is designed to help replicate, and it will close that gap that is on there from the factory. This is kind of deep when compared to this, because this is universal. It's got to fit in a bunch of stuff. The foam is what's designed to fill that in. This has this weird shape to it, and if you kind of look at this, you can kind of see where the two have corresponding holes. This is how I usually like to do it. I just kind of put one on top of one another and fill it out, or I just go put it on the door and figure out what I need to break off or sand off or whatever it is. You can use pliers. I like to use a grinder and just get it really nice. Be careful with an X-Acto knife. It is actually thicker and harder than it looks, and you don't want to cut your finger off. Now, when comparing the two drivers, these have a cloth surround, this has a foam surround. This is some form of a plastic style cone. Clearly this is a paper. Big regular style magnet as opposed to this little guy here. Metal construction as opposed to composite construction. As far as depth for the two go, this is gonna sit a lot lower because there's no big magnet on the back, and a lot of it comes out. If you put it in here and compare the heights to one another, you can see it's not that far off. And as far as depth goes, the depth is no deeper than this trim bezel here, so you're not going to have any issues with it going in and hitting the window or window bars or something like that. You can see why just putting this simple piece of foam on here will get it to the right depth out to attach to. If you'll notice this little line right here, there's actually a trim on the factory that this will go into, and so we'll be able to retain all that, which is really nice. When prepping the bracket to match the factory, I like to start with a pair of duckbills, and the first thing in a Toyota is removing these two areas here. These are GM mounts, and they need to come off. Just grabbing them and rocking them back and forth will easily remove them. The reason why I like to remove them is because the next step is me setting this on the door panel and just kind of getting an idea of what holes are which. You can do this, but it's just eyeballing it, and oh yeah, those look close, but I like to just double check. Definitely gonna be these four corners. I need to remove this guy over here, some of this, and just kind of like round these out. Now I switch to this guy, a little bit better job. Test fit it one more time. Need to remove this one piece here because it's kind of getting in the way of this wiring. This hole here, this hole over here means I can remove these two pieces. So I've made some modifications to this just to line it up better in my mind. Let's go back over to the bench and finish it up. Grab my bag of foam, apply it to the front of the speaker bracket, and then apply it to the back of the speaker bracket. There, we have it all foamed up. This will screw in like this once we get to that point. Let's go get this over into the door. Make sure our foam is actually on the metal and not just like floating somewhere. And that's good. We can test that with our hands. And this is what we end up with, our factory speaker bracket. There is a notch right here for our wire to come through just like that. For the dash speakers, even though we could use that plug, we're not going to, because we're not actually going to be using the factory wire for the dash speakers. We're gonna go active. So the 4-channel amp that we're gonna put in here, 2 of the channels are gonna power the mid bass, the other 2 channels are gonna power the 2.5s up in the dash. This way we can get maximum power to the front of the vehicle and total control. That amplifier has a bandpass crossover in it that will explain how that all works when we get to the amplifier. But this will allow us to really focus the power to the front of the vehicle, and the radio is more than enough to power a set of coaxial 6.5s in the back.